his three boys.
Yeah, Rob's gonna join us.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah, Rob takes on his.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, yeah. He has issues.
This pot.
Oh, yeah.
With 100 and down.
I was down there, so.
That's horrible.
Yeah, like 9 in the morning.
I know, it's, we have to go down there. Tomorrow, it's like,
I don't know, but we're so close. And we're outside.
How are you?
Tired.
Okay.
About trails.
Okay.
Your music show.
We got.
Enough that I can.
See, I wonder if there's everything else or get to the
People fall asleep when they get too warm.
Sure, sure.
Don't do that. You gotta go through the.
Really forced me to.
So-
It wouldn't be nice to put on it's summertime. But if it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. That was part of the flooding problem. May and June. 2003. Was
Yeah.
No. That was the last.
Trying to do a big interpretation.
But it's like 80, 85. The end of June, the last day of June.
With all that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Hey,
Like I've been in this meeting now since.
Yes. It's gonna be hot. I'm like, no, you're gonna love it.
I know.
I don't know, that's. I'm not looking every day, so I don't want to do it. He just tears up the shingles. When the little star goes. Like, okay, yeah, just because. Yeah, like, good on all of He can bend some metal.
Yeah. But you never really work.
We gotta fall back. You got skills, John. You can let it go.
So,
Doesn't work. Anybody that tries to get on the other side of the business. It's like
It's available.
so just.
Send it out.
Yeah, we already done. Exactly. And then we approve it. So it's probably, there'd be seats on it. There'd be seats on it easier. Who knows, trying to pay for yeah, it's sitting away.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's feeling bad as well. I was. But he's the one that making one.
Yes, yes, I'm sure. Hopes to be joining later in the but.
So I would figure.
So. It is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 25th, 2020. And I'll call the regular meeting of the Georgetown Board of Selectmen to order. Let's start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call is first. I am Lynette Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell may be joining us by Zoom when he gets here. He is ill tonight. Amanda Cooper.
Here.
John Jennings.
Here.
Dwayne Gazinski.
Here.
Mary Smith.
Here.
Rich Barrow.
Here.
We still have a forum. Agenda approval. We've got a couple of agenda corrections and additions. There's going to be a new item, a new number 5. Jess Jones would like to propose something to us about 6th Street. And then we need to correct the purpose of the executive session. It is executive session with the town attorney, town administrator, and appropriate staff to receive legal advice under CRS 24-6-4024F to consider possible pay increase for acting Marshal Gaskins. Any other changes to the agenda?
Number 5, okay, number 5, or
We are making, this is a new number 5 that I added, so everything after 3 numbers. Mhm.
This is John.
Okay. Anything else? Like to make a motion?
As amended.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest related to the business of the town that is not already on the agenda.
Excuse me, I have a fight to go to.
Okay.
I will come back and give my report, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, John. Take care. Anyone for audience business? Anybody online for audience business?
No.
Okay. We will move on. The payables tonight are dated June 7th through June 20th, 2024, with the addition of one that just came in. Do you want to tell us about that one?
There was a new payable that came in,
Yes,
is that what you're saying?
sorry, that's what Mary told me.
Yes, from Clear Creek Technical Services, it came in today. I believe, I don't know, for work that he's been doing, we did openings for North Argentina. And, he called this morning and just asked if we would squeeze that in, we realized that it was late, but it's for the whole month of June for $4,735.
Okay.
How much? I'm sorry, 4,700 what?
I'm sorry,
4,700.
25.
Okay, any other questions on that or any of the other payables?
I make a motion to approve the payables dated June 7th, 2024 to June 20th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the payables
Yes.
with the additional invoice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next we've got the minutes of our last meeting, which was on June.
Are you sure you don't want the computer?
11.
Yes. And you should have all gotten a revised, corrected, invoice from, not invoice, minutes from Jen. We worked on some corrections. She had trouble with them. She struggled with them because we didn't have good audio on the recording, so. Thank you for struggling with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, it was because the meeting got ended.
We'll do
That's
better.
it.
Yeah. So. Everybody see those, and did you have any others?
I submitted.
Yeah.
That change. Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected from 0/11/2024.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June 11th, 2024 is corrected. All in favor, say aye. Any any opposed? So Rob is here.
Yay.
Yay.
Here's Rob.
Okay. Motion passed. First on the agenda is introduction of new executive director for victims advocates, Christopher Gould and Kat Foreman.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Kat Foreman. Christopher Gould sends his apologies. He had a family emergency and he was not able to be here. So sorry for that. But I did want to introduce myself. So do I have just a few minutes to do that?
Sure, please do.
So my husband and I just moved to the area. We live in Idaho Springs. We bought a house there a couple weeks ago. Fortunately, found somewhere to live in this bleak market. There's not a lot to choose from. Not a lot on the market, so we're excited to be here. We are Colorado residents for a long time. He's been with Clear Creek Fire for a year and a half as a volunteer, and then he went full-time in January. And so our lives started kind of shifting over here. We lived for 9 years out in Park County, and then worked for 7 years in Jefferson County over near Evergreen. So I've lived in the foothills for a long time. I'm originally from California. And I always ask everyone, don't fault me for that. I've been in Colorado a long time now. Love Colorado. And so we're very excited to be here, a part of the community. My background was working in nonprofits, serving families. Most recently, I worked for Eudaimonia as operations director in Indian Hills for 7 years, built that nonprofit with a group of people. And prior to that, worked for a genetic disorder organization, also a nonprofit, as their director, and now as the Clear Creek Advocates Director. And I did not have background in advocacy, just recently completed the COPA training and became a certified advocate. And so I'm excited to be here, be a part of all of the Clear Creek County communities, and just looking forward to getting to know you all. So I try to walk up and down Georgetown here a little bit now that it's not quite so chilly and get to meet everyone. But as you probably know, we have an office here in town, and then also an office in Idaho Springs to meet with clients. So does anyone have any questions?
Where's your office?
So we have an undisclosed address. We're right across the street from the courthouse. We don't have it, we have the same address listed as the courthouse, just for security for the clients. Yeah, and then we have an office in the Health and Wellness Building in Idaho Springs, just for convenience for clients to meet with us there.
I know a fair bit about the advocates program, just from my working for the county for so many years, but there might be some people that don't. You might tell us what the program is all about.
So the Clear Creek Advocates serve victims of crime, and we're a bit expanded. That's technically what we do, but we also work with other individuals in the community that may have a need that we can help fill. But mostly that is the role that we play. We have relationships and agreements with law enforcement, Sheriff's Department, Empire, Georgetown here, as well as Idaho Springs, so that the police officers call us out whenever there is a victim of a crime that we can help them. There's a list of certain crimes that we respond to. Most notably and most common is domestic violence. We help with grief situations where someone has lost a loved one or lost someone, or if they've experienced a trauma witnessing the death of someone, then we respond to that as well. We have 24-hour service. We have a hotline. Myself and one other individual currently on paid staff, and then we have a group of volunteer advocates that help us fill that 24-hour response.
Yeah, okay. It's a great program.
Oh,
I know
yes.
nothing but good things, so.
We're very,
Oh, sorry, there's another Christopher Gould in the community, and this isn't the same one, as I understand.
there's two Christopher Goulds, that's surprising.
So
The-
who
so
is your
Christopher-
partner in crime here?
Oh, so Christopher Gould, I'm sorry, I should have made that clear. He's the president of my board. He's the president of the Clear Creek Advocate, and
Oh, okay.
he's the principal. He was until recently the principal of middle school, high school. Yeah.
Just the way that this was written, I was under the impression that maybe he was a new executive director.
Oh.
It's like, no, and I'm like, there's two of you, so thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, and I know that for any of you who are a little bit familiar with the Clear Creek Advocates, there's been some transitions over the last year. But hopefully I will bring some newfound stability and plan to be here for a long time.
Welcome.
You guys do amazing work. Thank you for everything you
Thank you.
community.
Thank you.
So work.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's nice to have a face to go with the name. So, next, we've got liquor license authority. It's a transfer of ownership from Mother Saloon. So we'll just, this is a public hearing, is that correct?
Transfer, no,
No,
but go ahead and just,
okay,
as the.
we're opening as the liquor authority. Liquor license authority. And turn it over to,
Well, you've got a staff report from Jen, and, we always check for various things, one of which is, does the transferee have possession of the premises, and can they serve alcohol on the premises? And we observe the original lease just allowed office uses, but they've since amended the lease at other places and have added the service of alcohol, so everything else looks like it checks out.
And, Bethany is online.
Yes.
Jan is.
Hi, everyone.
Bethany's the new owner, and Hyla helped with the paperwork,
okay,
so.
anything you want to share with us?
No, I just thought I should just if you have a couple of minutes to introduce myself. My name is Bethany Heinzen. My husband and I and our two children, we're an Australian family. That's actually where I'm zooming in from at the moment. I'm here for my grandmother's 100th birthday. Otherwise I would be there in person. We have been based in California for the last 15 years, and had a home up in Dumont, just outside of Georgetown for the last 4. We split our time between the two and just fell in love with Colorado and the Georgetown, Idaho Springs area, and really just enjoy being up there. And we look forward to being part of your beautiful community.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Mother's isn't gonna change. They're the same, mother's Thursday.
Okay. Good to know.
Good.
So, does the board have any questions?
Great.
Okay. All right,
Motion of package.
yeah, there sure is.
I move to approve the transfer of ownership of Mother Saloon from Mother's LLC to Tex and Sue LLC.
I'll second.
Hey, it's been moved and seconded to approve the transfer of ownership. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And now we go back to being the Board of Selectmen. And it was, next on the agenda was going to be the police report, but since Acting Marshal Gaskins got called out, we will postpone that for later. Do you want to postpone the next item as well? Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I can go ahead
So-
since I created it.
Okay.
So I was tasked by the board the last time, to go ahead and create a job description and a job posting for your review. I reprinted it because I made a mistake. The salary range should be 72,500. That would be the upper end, not 7,500 or 75,000. We don't have that in the budget, but we do have 72,500 in the budget. So, do you have any questions about the job description? I also reached out to Idaho Springs to make sure that these jobs were similar and edited versions to make sure that we had updated, because our last one was pretty old in our file. And so we spent some, John and I both spent some time updating this position. And then I have the posting of what it would look like in the mail or classified ad for your review too. And if so, I'm here to answer any questions. But I'm really looking just for a motion for me to move forward to go ahead and get this going.
Okay, any comments? Or questions?
Unfortunately, Sergeant Gaskins isn't here, but did he provide any feedback on this job description?
Yes, I mean, he and I both work on it together.
Okay. So he's okay with it?
Yes, he is.
Who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the police officer job description and allow the county administrator to post the position publicly.
Okay, been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay, next up is Jeff Jones. Our events.
Stand. Is there a new realm with the podium? I wasn't sure.
Sure.
So sorry for my voice. You can fault me, I'm a blue girl. I was at the last mile of the slacker. So you gotta cheer them on to finish the race. I pretty much wanted to come before the board today to speak about how the town is interested in making 6th Street a one-way. We do have a couple of hurdles to think of. You have the alternate truck route and special events that do shut down 6th Street. It's under my impression that there's been a few studies in the past, people in our community who have been asking about this, and other officials, including our fire chief, who is interested in this. So if you are interested as well or have any feedback at this time, please bring it forward.
Okay, so was there any particular event or a couple of events that prompted this or?
Oh, well, we've always been talking about working better with the train, with the traffic coming down. We would love to be able to capture them a little bit more. We are working on our Saturday music markets to go and join mountain jams. That would be a great way to capitalize them along with Guanella traffic. We're gonna Guanella pass traffic without hindering their access. It can get a little funky. We do have Christmas market to consider. So if they want to use that 6th Street, how can we make sure, you know, if it is a one-way, we can get around things like that. So there are some hurdles, but I didn't want to dedicate my time if the board of selectmen wasn't interested in this.
Right. I mean, I've been here long enough that I remember a time when we did have a one-way loop, 6th Street went east and 7th Street went west. And
Yeah, I came here for lunch.
He muted, so he had just.
oh, okay. Got it.
And he muted.
So, and, you know, it worked for, okay, but then people decided it was actually designed, 6th Street was designed to be wide enough for 2 lanes of traffic and a lane of parking, so it was abandoned because, as you say, there can be issues. So, but if people wanna bring it back,
I think the
any
volume of
interest?
traffic is a little bit different now, and what we're trying to encourage with our events here in town. We've recently been discussing different traffic calming activities that the police department is certainly weighing in on. That perhaps this could help alter those issues. The train traffic is probably a little bit different than what it was X amount of years ago when it was one way, and there has been some feedback from the merchants and questions over the last few years since I've been on VP.
I was gonna say, when I was chair of VPC, this came up.
Right, so, you know, but again, I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. We have studies that you can dust off and take a look at and get some recent feedback, and if the fire authority is, you know, I mean, if all the parties are weighing in. It's, you know, any of us drive on any of those intersecting streets, and everybody comes to a 4-way, even though there is no 4 ways, or nobody comes to it and play that game. We're a tourist town. It would allow for maybe some more, you know, safe flow through the main drag.
It's,
Especially with cars getting bigger, trucks getting bigger, trailers getting bigger.
There's a lot of more.
It's not public,
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
notoriously, I think, Dan does have a, that was actually a point that I was about to make, was that it's when you're going east and you come, or west, and you come to, especially if they're in a rental car, they freeze and they panic. And they sit there and they don't know what to do, and then you have to like maneuver around them. And so while we are accustomed to it being in two ways, because we are. Deaf, yes, exactly. And it would also, the merchants have expressed that they feel it would help the business in the off season, especially if there was a kind of a forced path down Sixth Street, but that was again, that was like, why did BPC drop it?
We spoke to a member of BBC about it today, and other members have brought it up to me, so I'm not quite sure if that was.
I feel like it's just honestly a time thing, like it just didn't, I think it just got abandoned on,
I think the last time we talked about it was during, or right around COVID.
it was, I think you're right.
So, so many things kind of got pushed to the wayside because whatever, and, again, there's just, there seems to be a lot of pluses. But I would say continue on your research.
Push the people coming off of the train to come down Sixth Street and around.
Correct.
Awesome, though, yeah, there was talked about some time back, I always thought it would be a good idea. Closing it all together, I think, was bad just because of all the side traffic and stuff, but.
So are we talking the entire length or like, I'm concerned about the section in front of the post office.
At this time, we have been talking about the entire link, but I will add that concern to my research in front of the post office.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise people would just turn at the post office and not realize they were, is that what you're thinking?
Well, or locals trying to get to the post office.
True, versus going all the way around.
Yeah.
There was also a little bit of discussion if we keep 7th Street flowing both ways, maybe right after Taos may go one way for even flow of traffic, but that could help alleviate the post office. I've got research to do, but please bring your questions, bring them now, email me, I'm always around.
What about the ability of having diagonal parking if you have one way?
Yeah.
You could increase your spots in front of all the difference.
That was part of the conversations for a pro of either diagonal or double-sided parking.
Yeah.
I think too, was just a concern that we and staff, we talked about, because we brought this up too in our staff meeting, was how we have to think for trucks that are coming down, because that would go 7th Street up to Rose and go up to Pinellas Pass, that's the main truck route.
Right.
And that would create a little bit of, confliction, but we can think through it, it's just
Not if 7th stays a two-way.
if 7th says 2-way, then that's correct.
Yeah.
Then we just have,
We got things to work out, but if I get the green light, I have no problem to bring this back to you all and see where we're at.
I might be able to help you dig up the old minutes
Thank you.
from a long time ago.
Yeah.
With the information.
Absolutely. So far, I've had members of BPC and our own staff or clerk was helping me find those case studies. So we do have the research there. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's definitely using what we have.
Okay.
I'm for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
What about you, Rob?
I get a thumbs up from Rob.
Okay,
Thanks, Rose.
thank you.
One more thing before I fully head out of here, there are a couple of events that I do want you all to be aware of. We have our Olympic 14 field day coming up July 25th and July 26th. I have packets for everyone. This is slowly been going out to businesses and we'll be launching at the end of the week. CCMRG is partnering with us, so we're able to have kind of a fun invitation for a fun day under the sun. There's really no rules or expectations except you participate in the way you want. So we'll have the Olympic Village down here on 6th Street. That'll be more fun, cornhole vendors, light things, but down at the City of Champions Park in Whirlands Winter Park, there'll be a couple of games for adults and kids. And then of course at Legends Lake, water sports, fishing, paddleboarding. We want everyone to be included. So I will drop these off with y'all and I will be excited for everyone's participation.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Okay. All right, next we have ordinance number 7, series 2024. And this is second reading and public hearing, an ordinance amending section 2.24.010 of the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning law enforcement. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing before I forget. It's 6:26.
Terrific. You saw this on first reading and, requested some changes, and those have been made. It's a pretty short ordinance. And you know that it changed the title of our chief law enforcement officer from, town marshal to police chief. So it makes those changes. It, as requested, has the town administrator preparing a review of the chief for the use of the board annually. And, as well, it tinkers a little bit with the, personnel authority of the police chief, giving personnel or that authority to the police chief, but with the final approval and review by the town administrator. So those are the changes, all as discussed 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So any public comments? Okay, anybody online have public comments? Okay,
I have a few corrections that didn't quite
Sure.
make this cut.
Yeah, sure. Where?
So under 2.24.010. The second line. That says. Starts out, board of selectmen shall have and exercise such authority, and we inserted police powers. The word police.
Okay.
Within the town, and then on the third line, we struck similar to that of sheriff,
Yeah, thank you.
but kept under state law.
Good, thanks.
I'm suggesting under the parenthetical additions that we change the word "see" to "ensure," only because it sounds a little bit better.
Where's that one?
So number 1, 2,
I got it.
and 3, to start each of those paragraphs with the word "ensure" instead of "see." A question, Harry, and maybe you can clarify this for me, because the word sheriff popped out again under the parentheses 3. The last line starts with sheriff, and that the same fees for services that sheriffs are allowed in similar cases. Do we want to make that reference again to the sheriff, because we're not the sheriff?
Well, that's true, but the county sheriff, serves process.
That's fine, I just wanted to clarify since we had struck it in an earlier.
Yeah, I think the reference there is more generic.
And then under number 4, the second line should be and records the records of the police department as may be required by law to the board of selectmen and the town administrator. There was a lot of discussion about that.
Okay. Got that?
And then under number 5, I would just recommend that we add the word supervise under those first few words, hire, discipline, supervise, and terminate. Because there's an assumption that the chief is the supervisor.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Proper motion be approved the ordinance with the changes noted.
I'll make that motion. I will.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 7, series 2024, with the changes discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next we've got ordinance number 8, series 2024, and this is a first reading. An ordinance amending chapter 17.28 of the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning subdivision plat amendments and revising and relocating the procedure for administrative plat corrections.
Thank you. As I asked you, I think either 1 or 2 meetings ago, we've gotten a request from a property owner of one of the, it's the first, I think, the first community, the most northerly of the townhomes that are located just south of the hotel brewery. And that person's online, his name's Ben Chang, and his desire was to be able to either rent or use his property without the flat note requirements, which are restrictive, as you know, on those townhomes requiring them to be really only short-term rented effectively through the hotel. He understands that the prohibition on short-term rentals licenses in the Bighorn project generally continues to apply. But you've been made aware of that flat note restriction. And the fact that it frankly isn't any longer needed for the hotel, but it's embedded in the plat, so it's carried forward on the deeds for all those properties. You also know that other than amending a plat through as a result of settlement of litigation, which we had on this, there is no process in the town code for administrative or other plat corrections. Excuse me, there is an administrative, there's a process that we put together that is correcting obvious errors, as you might recall, but not anything that would rise to the level of removing a plat note, which has a substantive effect. And, you know, there's a policy surrounding that you may or may not want to say yes to. So you've directed that I should put together an ordinance to address this and for your consideration. So I've done that. It looks longer than it is in the sense that I did some reorganizing of what is in the code book already on these subjects, because honestly, we have major subdivision, minor subdivision, subdivision exemptions, subdivision amendments, and administrative plat corrections. And what we're adding here are the subdivision amendments. There's administrative plat corrections where they fix, you know, numbers, and when it says go west 100 feet, it should be go east. You can fix that. But this is really a subdivision amendment that isn't a minor subdivision, it isn't major, it isn't an exemption, and it's more substantive than a plat correction. All those other procedures are already in the code. So, but I needed to be able to reference them kind of all in one place. And so you see on the first page, it's almost like a little index. Here are all the ways plats can be processed here in town. And I had to renumber some of the later sections to be able to have this information kind of flow in some kind of reasonable way. Otherwise it was goofy. So the first page of the ordinance is simply doing that, creating an index and saying section 2, which sections get renumbered so that I can create a section number that's available for the subdivision amendments, which is on the second page, and that's all new material. So it is that second page that is what gets added to the code, and you'll notice that it's only available for a previously approved subdivision. It can't increase the number of lots, so you're not doing a subdivision sense. It's got to be a minor sub. You've got to go through that process. There's an application that's filed. It's got to be in a recordable form because you're amending a plat. Plats are recorded. So there's and I looked at our requirements for plats, shortened them a little bit to be able to have a, you know, and I've done this for other cities. I've done plat amendments and you invent kind of a little form, but I thought it'd be helpful to have at least the 5 pieces of information. And I left number 5, additional information is part of the town administrator. Because in a given case, you might want an attachment or a survey or something like that. They've got to explain why they need the amendment. And then the rest is kind of process. There's an application. It's heard by the board of selectmen. There's a 15-day notice prior. Town administrator can require additional notice. If there are neighbors, for example, that might be affected by a given amendment, notice to them, or selectman says yes or no, and approved plat corrections get recorded for the recorder's office. So that's and then I kind of redid some renumbering and whatnot, but the heart of it is at that second page. I'm happy to answer questions. Mr. Chang is also, I see, online. He asked me if he needed to come, and I said he wasn't required to, but he'd be welcome to. So You can hear from him if you wish, or ask me any questions.
Any questions for Jerry?
Why wouldn't we want the planning commission involved in this process?
You
Since
certainly can.
I would feel more comfortable since they are part of the original plat agreements, or
It's
that they should be a part of any type of amendment.
easy to do. When we get into motion territory, I can suggest an addition.
So would the person who was applying to amend the plat go to the planning commission first and then come to the board second?
And it'd be like you do for many of the things, the planning commission recommendation. Whether or not a hearing is probably less important for something small, but then a hearing in front of the board, and then you've got the planning commission's written recommendation.
So I know this came to light with this one particular question from, one of the audience participants here, but just run that out for me. What would be another situation that currently we might use this for? I mean, I'm all about the process and having the means to do that, but
An example that comes up actually fairly frequently are lot lines in the wrong place. That's between properties and shifting the lot line. It's not gonna create another lot. And we have a lot of that in town. I'm often asked questions about, well, what happens here? And where you've got a lot line in the wrong place and both lots are owned by the same property owner. Got a lot of those. But those lots can be independently sold because they're separately platted in lot 1, block 2. But if the northerly lot line on the plat doesn't match up with either the existing conditions on the ground or people's expectations or got surveyed wrong, there's not a process to correct that and get a correction recorded so that the lot line is in the right place. We see that frequently, and I have to tell them, well, there's, it's not really a mistake. In many cases, it's hard to say what it is, but it probably doesn't qualify as an administrative plat correction. I just don't think so. It's not an obvious error. And I will say that for the things like that, people purchase their lots, but then develop, things have happened in the last 100 years on both properties. And the only way to really solve it would be a quiet title action from one property owner against another. So that's a good example. If you gave me 3 minutes, I could think of a couple others that are like more than a correction of an error and not creating any new lots. Plat notes, which is this example, don't come up as much, but occasionally they could. I think there's probably plat notes, for example, on reverters. And if alcohol is ever sold on the property, then it reverts. We've seen some of those, and that'd be a plat note, and that really affects your ability to convey property. The title companies don't like that. That'd be another example, and there are others, I'm sure. So. Other questions? If you want to ask Mr. Chang, who's here, it's okay. It's not really a hearing.
No, and we have his letter from his original request, so, which started this ball rolling. So, any other suggestions?
I think it's good.
Rob, how about you?
I have no suggestions.
Okay,
Can we add another planning commission recommendation?
Yeah, when
yes.
you get through a motion, I've got a way to add that pretty easily.
I was thinking the same thing.
So, Mr. Chang, thanks for attending, and
Yes.
we will take testimony in 2 weeks on this, a public hearing. But it looks as if it's gonna pass on first reading, so stay tuned.
I will be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course. If you're ready for motion, I can suggest one.
It looks like we're ready.
Proper motion be adopt ordinance number 8, series 2024, with the addition of new subparagraph 5 on page 2 to read: the application shall first be reviewed by the planning commission. at a public meeting, which, commission shall provide a written recommendation to the board of selectmen.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8, series 2024 on first reading with the changes as discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. And now, before I forget, I did note that you came back, but I was plowing along, but you want to bring your police report back in, so, it's up to you.
I'll be brief. You have the written version.
You do.
It's summertime and people are enjoying the heat and time and stuff. Just over the past 2 weeks, there's been an increase in call volume incidents associated with summer. Before I get to that, the 2 major cases we've had the theft of the Razor, the 2 motorcycles and vehicles entered. I have identified the suspect in that case. I've identified the vehicle and where it resides. But because it's part of a larger case, and this vehicle is all over the place, and I won't get into detail as to where, when, and all this. But I will get a warrant out for this individual. And we're just trying to find the various locations, and there are many, where these machines, these vehicles are being taken to include Texas. So anyway, just trying to sort all that out before I go with the warrants. Identify the individual stealing packages off the porch. And I'll get a warrant out for that individual. The thefts of the ATVs have not stopped. Silver Plume was, saw that last night. A couple got stolen from Silver Plume. And one, a trailer from Empire, same individuals. And while you can't see, I have a picture of the individual attempting to get into a vehicle in Empire. He's masked. He has gloves on and he has an AR-15 slung around his shoulder. So these people they're armed. They're not to be messed with, and I've already put out a kind of a newsletter of updating the community on these major cases, as well as these individuals are armed. So the individual with the stealing packages off the porch ran from Arvada, got away from him, took off on foot, and had an AR-15 on the front seat of his vehicle. It used to be you're gonna steal packages, you're gonna steal something like that, you're not armed. But anymore they are, and I don't know why. But I put that out to the community to be aware of this, don't confront people. When if they're trying to steal something of yours, give us a call. My phone, I've given my number out, my phone is always on. There has been some issues with people calling 911 and taking them 8 minutes to get through to JeffCon. Which is why I've availed my phone number to the community. And so they can call me directly, much faster response. So this past weekend, traffic accidents were prevalent, even in town, which is very unusual. Traffic was heavy in town. Of course, we've had Slacker, we've had the yard sale, but both Saturday and Sunday saw a high volume of traffic where traffic control had to be performed at the roundabout just to clear up these long queues. I pulled 2 guns off of people this weekend. One at the lake, one was a suicidal party. I ended up finding a Jones Pass started in town. We've had drug overdoses. So anyway, there's been an uptick, drugs, an uptick in all of these issues, which we don't generally see this quick in summer. Throughout summer, we've seen them all, but not in the course of early summer, all at once. Slacker, the major issues there was traffic. It was just such a high volume of traffic. It was a little confusing at times where we had barricades and enclosures. Even residents trying to make their way back home. So, and we've gone over it staff, and we'll debrief tomorrow specifically on soccer on how to best do this, but communication in the future will be a part of it, where we communicate with the community maybe a month ahead of time. Without any changes, and Slacker seemed to morph each week, something changed, until the very end, we were still making changes. And even I got confused at one point as to what are we doing? And I said, you know, we had a closure over here, and I said, we can't have that closure because it's bottlenecking traffic at Rose and 6, and we have to be able to disperse traffic between Rose and Argentine even through the neighborhoods, and we have to maintain the flow. So anyways, it's issues like that we're gonna iron out for next year's events, and then upcoming events, be cognizant of that, so anyway, these are the issues we're dealing with. The events, I had 2 rangers and I posted them at the park. The park is a soft target. It's an easy target for anyone wanting to act nefariously. And so that's always my concern when we have that type of crowd in the open. And so I had 2 rangers posted there. I had a reserve officer up at the loop, and then I went around dealing with traffic issues, putting out fires and answering calls. So those are the what's been going on the past 2 weeks. And so do you guys have any questions about anything specific? I'll try to address it as best I can.
I have a question about the
Yeah.
GovCon response time.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way to report, like, who handles like that?
Well, I'm not
I know
sure
that's not you, it's
why,
Jeff.
but that would be Jeff Streeter, he's the director. And that would be a question, and I can get you his contact information. He is the director. Even I have called Jeff and could not get through. Yeah, the phone rang incessantly, and then it finally went to a voicemail. And so when, it's frustrating, especially when it was a medical call over here, where she was crying and saying it took me 8 minutes to get through to 911. And then I said, okay, that's it. People can have my number. Call me directly, because my phone is always on 24/7. I'm usually in town always. And I will immediately respond, and I'll get on the radio, and Jeff will have that communication going, and it would be a quicker response in theory, so.
As our acting marshal, can't you make that contact with whatever Streeter?
Well, Jeff, I can make the contact with Jeff Streeter, but it's not,
Cause I think that it's
Yeah.
more meaningful to come from you, our police department, and because there's an expectation on your part, on our part, and, the community's part, and so what steps are they taking?
I also know the commissioners were there was a social media thread, this was probably a month ago, so I don't know if it's been resolved, but. George Marlin was commenting on the thread because there was frustration it was an Idaho Springs call with like a loose dog. And people were saying that they had howled on JeffCom, and I'm looking at the May JeffCom report does say 56.8% was their priority 1 and 2 calls processed. The priority 1 and 2 are
all right, yeah.
that's it, like, what is,
Look, yeah.
the high ones.
Yeah, so the medical call over here would have been a high priority.
So, yeah, it's 56.8.
I mean, they're not unaware of what's going on, and I've communicated with JeffCom supervisors. And I know they've had some power outages, not their fault, construction related, where they've gone down. They've had some radio issues where they've gone down and using backups. And so we're just trying to, my Band-Aid to this, my fix to this is to allow the community to have my number, where I can immediately respond upon it, such as the individual who called me while I was here earlier. Called me directly to say that there was a fight, and then I immediately go, I call out on the radio that there's a fight. And their response was, they timestamped it. They didn't ask me where, they didn't ask me what, I said, I had to call them again and say, okay, I have a fight. And it's over here, before it's being acknowledged, oh, I hear what you're saying, I know what you're saying now. So it's.
But then that becomes an officer safety, we are concerned about for your safety.
I get it.
responses, so.
Yeah.
So, you know, anyone can have, I mean, even if it was still being dispatched out of the county here. Some of those problems, you know, there still could have been power outages and everything else, but what steps are they taking? To rectify it and what, and we wanna make sure that your responses to any calls, especially if you're being dispatched and the first responder. That your location is being recorded and identified.
I get it, and I understand the frustrations, the hurdles that we've been going through with Jeffcom, but I still. You know, and I'm comfortable in doing my job with that stress, because I've done this for 24 years. And so I have to prioritize, how am I gonna do this? There, you know, something's not right at Jeffcom side, how do I address it there versus what level of call is this, what priority call is this, and how do I address that? Do I have time to call on the phone? Do I have time to radio again? Or do I need to address it and then get back and say, did you copy my transmission? Did you, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, I wish it was a better fix.
Are you hearing similar things from the other towns in the county?
Sheriff's office, yes, ma'am. You know, in passing conversation, I am hearing, you know, some of the issues that are going on and what they're experiencing, same thing. And it's certainly across the board. And I mean, in I was down there at one point, because I wanted to take a look at the console. And there are dispatchers walking away from their terminal to go talk to this person over here. And when an officer calls out, they need to come back to their terminal to, you know, to address whatever the officer is looking for. Are they looking for CCN, NCIC return? They have to come all the way back to the terminal, so there's a delay in communication in their response, or they copy, and by the time they get back to their terminal, they need to ask, what was this again? What did you need? And so I saw that. They also service a lot of agencies, and for like Clear Creek, there's one dispatcher, and so, you know, I don't know about other agencies, I'm sure they have more. For like Jefferson County, bigger agencies, but to what, you know, how much more are they short staffed? These are all, you know, issues that are internal within Jeffcom, and, you know.
Is this something though that you need to team up with the sheriff's office and Idaho Springs and Empire and everyone else here? And, you know, we're kind of like a class action where we're taking Jeffcom to task and making sure that they're abiding by the terms of the contract and the responses.
So my point of contact at the sheriff's office is Lieutenant Straton, and he communicates and liaisons with Jeffcom, and so I go to him. And then he can kind of go and spearhead what all the issues are. So that we're not all coming in at different angles, you know, and it's sort of like having a command center at an incident. You know, one person goes to the command center, or the liaison goes to the command center without, you know, 30 people going to Jeffcom and saying, hey, this is my complaint.
But that's one voice compared to potentially 30 voices, and I know there are 30 of us out here as a county, not that big, but maybe we need to have, you know, the 5 or 6 different voices come up. So I guess, you know, next time when we hear from you, let's kind of have an update on this, so we know what we're actually, or what we need to be.
I also feel like maybe Rick should reach out to the county manager, because the commissioners, or maybe somebody, the commissioners are.
At both levels.
Yeah, they're interested in the success rate on this because it was their move, and if they're not, the social media thread that I saw, great, I don't put a ton of stock in it. But George was he's like, I'm sorry, please email me, because I think that the commissioners are interested in knowing, and I'm looking at like the May report that's on the Jeffcom website. And it has some basic data on the 90%, the goal and the result of how the 911 calls were answered, but it doesn't have a breakdown by agencies. Because if Jeffcom needs to pull somebody else, and again, this is not the acting marshal's problem to solve, but it's unfortunately his problem to cope with. And his cell phone becoming the personal beacon of safety is not.
Well, if you're on a call, you can't give full attention to the call that you're on and trying to,
Right.
you know, resolve the issue at hand if all of a sudden you're getting another call because you're 911 dispatch. So, you know, this is not
Yeah,
helping any of us. By
so I feel like,
by-
I mean. If someone's, I'm willing to reach out to George and say, do you, okay.
Okay, we can do that. So, but thanks for bringing it to our attention, because it was expected that there would be some hiccups and difficulties in the transition and, you know, first few months, but we shouldn't be still having 8-minute plus.
Right, and I tried to say, I had a suicidal party Sunday. Who reported what she had done. Taking pills, alcohol, and they couldn't get a team. And it could be variety, it could be the cell provider, but it could be something else.
Yeah.
But, you know, and instead of going out of service at 5:30, because I was really tired. I kept trying to figure out where she could be, because I didn't figure she'd be alive the next day. Based on the scanned information I did have. And so I finally called her one last time, and this was probably 6:30, and she answered, and she told me she was on Jones Pass. So I went up to, I responded to Jones Pass to get her into an ambulance to get her to the hospital. So these are the things I'm doing to try to, you know, overcome hurdles and things of that nature, is to take extra time on calls and to provide additional service. You know, I could easily pass it off to the county, she's in the county, but they're busy. And so, you know, why put someone like that on the back burner, when they need immediate attention? So anyway, these are some of the things I'm doing to rectify the hurdles.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Any questions for Jen? Okay.
These are.
Yes. All right, next we have, resolution WWE-1, series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving a fee schedule for water and sewer fees.
You want me to do that, or are you married?
Probably.
Okay.
So every June, we take a look at our water and sewer rates. See, if we need to have an increase or where they're at, if it's the regular increase. Ryan Zabel and I took a look at the current rates. Because of the last several years, we've been able to pay off some of our existing water loans. And we determined that water does not need to be increased this year, for July. But sewer is lagging a little bit behind, with the increase in chemicals and delivery and sledge hauling. It's not as healthy as it should be. So we were proposing no increase for water and then a $3 increase on sewer, which would bring the water and sewer combined rate to 144 a month versus per 2 hour versus 141, which it is currently.
When we get to the motion, just remember to change the year. It ends in July 1st, 2023, so. Any questions for Mary? Okay, thank you to Mary and thank you to Ryan for working us through this. Who would like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution WW1 series 2024. The resolution of the Board of Selectmen to the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving the fee schedule for water and sewer fees effective July 1st, 2024.
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution WWE 1, series 2024. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next we have resolution number 8, series 2024. And this is regarding website accessibility that was from HB 21-1110. And that would be Keisha.
Yes. So HB 21-1110, as I have brought up before, is a law that was passed by the House of Colorado legislation in 2021 that requires all government services to be accessible to all members of the public, including those with disabilities. They have asked all municipalities to develop an action plan no later than July 1st to show good faith efforts in establishing accessibility for services on specifically our online platforms where we interact with the public quite often. So I've developed this action plan. The first step would be to understand the law, and that basically requires that there's a prohibition on discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and we need to develop accessibility for all of our services. Number 2 would be to assess the current state of some of our digital properties, including our websites, different applications that we use, documents, and third-party tools, and identify areas that need improvement in terms of accessibility. Document web properties such as a comprehensive list of all of our website domains. We have at least 2 websites, and anything that's controlled by the town, which is primarily the 2 things, and social media websites. So Instagram and Facebook are also subject to this. Training and awareness for staff members to interact with those services, to manage that digital content and raise awareness about accessibility requirements among those staff members. Establishing standards for procurement considerations. So if we were to purchase, like we've talked about, applications where people can subscribe to emergency notifications, something like that. We would want standards for assessing those new technologies to make sure that those are accessible. Testing and monitoring, so regularly test digital properties for accessibility compliance and monitor changes and updates to maintain that compliance. And that's can be done by staff, but also we've talked about third-party contractors doing some of that work. We are still waiting on a potential grant from SIPA, so I'll let you know if we get any updates on that regarding the testing and monitoring. Reporting and accountability, so establishing reporting mechanisms to track progress on accessibility standards and assigned responsibility for accessibility compliance within the organization. We want to limit liability, so remove unnecessary electronic documents from public-facing platforms where appropriate, and post a statement of commitment to accessibility standards on all of our platforms. Create accessibility complaint request form that is in itself accessible. And those are the steps that I recommend that we work on. Jerry and I looked at and have proposed as a resolution. Does anybody have any questions?
How do you see our system changing?
We have a lot, I think the biggest one is we have a lot of PDFs that are not currently able to be read by screen readers. So a lot of that stuff will come down. Jen's actually taken some steps towards that already, stuff that's really old and has not been looked at for a very long time. All of that stuff is still in our record keeping, but for any public facing platform, we don't necessarily need to have the agenda from 2013 posted somewhere on our website. So a lot of that stuff will come down. So meaner as far as what kind of documents we're posting and keeping up for long periods of time. From a staff perspective, we'll also be doing work to tag things appropriately so that screen readers can read them as we are creating content. There's some things for social media like standards of like the types of language you can use. That's, I think some of our staff already has some training in, but we wanna make sure we're keeping up those standards like that. We also have connections. One of the provisions of the bill is that we are liable for other websites that are connected to our website. So making sure that we limit who we link to from our websites and that they're also compliant, which, you know, hopefully won't be too difficult or cut too many of our ties. We do want to promote people in our town as much as possible. But all of this is a process and will take a long time and will probably never be 100% compliant. So it's just about establishing protocol to make sure that staff is, you know, doing our best to keep up with what regulations ask for and producing content as we go forward that is accessible. There are some things like the DRC guidelines, for example, which is a big, you know, it's 3 books. And screen readers will have a hard time because of the way that it's formatted. It's like 2 columns and there's pictures in random spots, and that is gonna take a lot of work to remediate, but it's not a document that we can pull from our website. It's an important resource for the community, so that might be something we outsource to someone else to tag, so remediation efforts and some of those things. But we do have the software, Jen and Jess and I have the software to tag like forms that we create, so we don't necessarily need to outsource that, although it might be useful to us to kind of bulk get some of those big ones out of the way. And then, you know, we can remediate stuff as we go, so.
But so we still have to make this information accessible to all.
Yeah, it's super complicated.
I
It's-
understand that, and though we're not necessarily making it accessible through technology, there has to be some way that those still needing to access it, if they need something from 2013, know the steps to do that. So I realize one just, you know, triggers another and there's dominoes. I guess the thing I'm hung up on a little bit here is the definition of the unnecessary electronic documents and how we're determining what's unnecessary, what's the definition of unnecessary, because someone's trying to access it, they think it's pretty darn necessary, you know?
For
So-
GCS, we had our attorney go through our website to kind of help us and with a cleanup, and I mean, we have a charter specific attorney who's government driven. And they recommended all of our PDFs come down, and so we, on our next meeting, have an update to our record keeping policy. So that, and then there's an instruction that'll go onto our website that says if you need documents older than this date, this is what you do to get them.
I just wanna be careful so that we're not limiting what's available to people.
It's definitely a little bit of a less is more situation though, because if we have stuff up there that can't be translated, we get fined. And the fine is hefty. The fine's like. I know CCSD just had to do this too.
Wait, that's not very long, yeah. Is there a means to have it become accessible? You know, if it's there and it's not available for a screen reader, a very simplistic example. You know, is there a way that we can flag it to the person who's trying to access it so that it directs them as to how they can then, based on their disability?
So the complaint request form is a combination form where someone can submit a request to receive a document that is accessible. And then we can modify that particular document instead of trying to remediate all of them. Which will take us hours and hours and hours, probably years.
And then the technology will change many times.
Right.
3,500 payable to each plaintiff for each violation. Per violation on the website.
You know, as Amanda says, it's a process. And it's, you know, will take time, there'll be others that will do it before we do, and we'll be able to learn from them. Legislatures, you know, extended the date for compliance.
Oh, they do?
And, yeah.
What is it now?
It's another year, it's a year. July 2025.
Provided you put this.
Provided
in
We have a plan, and that's why this is here.
Yes.
You know, the starting point, and we can probably have study sessions even on, what documents we really, from a policy standpoint, want to spend the money to make sure they're immediately available, what documents you don't need at all and can be just gone. And what documents would be expensive to remediate, but you create a process whereby a person can identify that they need this and then you go remediate it. And those are the three categories. I'm sure there are other solutions, but increasingly there will be consultants out there that will help you figure it out, and we're gonna need them. We really are. And it may well change, Casey and I were talking about this, it may well change on an ongoing basis, kind of how we create and format documents. Because now we create them and we create graphs right in the middle. But if you're aware of that, that's anything, 5 years from now, it'll be sort of muscle memory that you don't do it that way. Over time, you'll have increasing number of documents that are compliant, and it's a process. So we'll but this is an important step. It makes us compliant under the law, so that and I think it's good. It lays out, a game plan. But each one of those elements, no question, has to be worked through by the board.
It's such a complicated mess, honestly. It's really hard. Because when you find one thing, then you're like, oh, there's 10 more things that, like, how do you translate this? Like, it's every photo, all your minutes.
One step at a time.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I knew too. I think we have resolution number 8, series 2020.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 8, series 2024. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Next we have an appointment for the Administrative Policy Review Committee. And we have 2 applicants and they're both here. I saw you up on screen and then you disappeared and here you are.
Not that far.
Yep, it's not. So we've got letters from both. Thank you. And would you maybe take turns? Go ahead and if you had anything to add to your letter.
I would just be curious to know why we couldn't both be placed. Why we couldn't have 2 citizens on the committee. We have 2 very qualified, interested people, so that would be weird. I'm sorry to start it off with a question.
No, that's okay. Okay, and the person speaking is Carrie Ann McHugh.
Yeah, thanks.
Personally, I was thinking in terms of, we've got 2 staff and 2 board, and to avoid tie, we just went with 1, but
That's interesting.
odd numbers are usually good for boards.
Is there gonna be a vote though?
There will, so.
It'll be a vote based, for recommendations, so,
Yeah,
I think we have to, are we going to. We need to be concerned about quorums because we're not always available.
Right.
All the time, and. The more people we put on the committee. The greater that's going to affect that, and so.
I personally liked the idea of having 2 citizens because I didn't want to limit it to just, or actually depending on the number of applicants that we were seeing, opening it up to more citizens. Because I think it's important to pull a lot of things into consideration, but I do respect the tie situation if there's actual voting, which might have been a misunderstanding. That it was more kind of loose. I don't know, I'm still not clear on how we defined honestly the role of this actual committee, this commission committee.
Really can, but my head went to the go for the odd number.
For sure, and I definitely respect that, but I wouldn't be against that. I think that could.
My votes will fail, just like a 4-3 vote fails, a 3-3 vote fails. So it's not it's handier to have an odd number, so you don't, if everybody's there, then you never have a tie vote. If one person's not there, then you have an even number and you get a tie vote. Or you do have tie votes even with the even numbered committee. The rule is really clear that a tie vote, the motion fails. And motions pass and fail all the time, so that's one other way they can fail.
We were lucky that we had two people, both of you, thank you for submitting your interest. You know, would we be saying, oh, well, let's make it 7 if we had 3, you know, and, or what if we had 6 more people, you know? So.
6, I might try, but 3, even 3, I might be like.
Well, what about, like, you mentioned the planning commission, what about one from each ward? Or is that just definitely pushing too much?
Yeah.
I know, yeah, recommendations to the board that is making, you know, we're the policymakers. The committee is just trying to be one more step in the process to hopefully minimize us belaboring some of the stuff that can get sifted through committee. I'm pointing to you guys, you're a committee at this moment. You know, and then, and how we direct our legal eyes on it. You know, the committee is gonna be directing the different departments within our organization, within our staff, you know, maybe wastewater, you know, it might be police department, it might be finance, you know, type things. It's not as if we're creating those words of wisdom. It's the committee is just to fine tune that process.
Yeah. What happened to the first committee when it was? And
Mary's the only one that seems to have.
It just kind of went by the wayside.
I followed up with it over the years, and then I think you even had to go and dig it up and say, oh yeah, there actually is a community, but they haven't met in many years, you know?
They had it for, I mean, it was created for a particular reason, I'm sure. But I think, I remember meeting once.
Yeah, I think it was created, was it 2011?
You said Tom Hale was on it, was involved in it.
I was on it.
You were.
So I was on it back in 2011 at that time, because I have the sheet where Marinelle sent me, where we were all.
There was kind of a change in getting in personnel issues that
Right,
we were trying to back out of.
right.
And I think it lost its way. And this sounds like it's a different thing.
It does sound like it's more.
Advisement.
Yeah.
But that was, we were looking at current employees and you don't want to be doing that. And so I think that's what happened. I can't remember the last time either. It's been a long time.
I think you're right, Mary, we met more than once.
But also, no more than twice, you know.
Well, and I know we continue to make the appointments from the board, but we've never enacted or reenacted. Or recommissioned the commission.
How many people were on the original commission?
There were 2 citizens on that original commission.
I want to say there were 6 or 8 people.
I wanna say something.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Bruce, we haven't heard from you.
No, I don't have much to add. I was just in front of you all not too long ago for the planning commission, so if you have any other questions, I'll certainly answer. The only thing I might add to that is I think it would be a good idea to have 2 also, but if you're worried about ties, much like the board of selectmen, if you're still hashing out how you're gonna roll this committee, you could designate somebody to be a tiebreaker like you. If you have a tie or something like that, just an idea to think about. I'm a fan of working towards consensus on things. But just something to consider if you're worried about ties.
I think just to throw out that because we are. You know, I'm saying this for. Preaching to the choir, we're all volunteers here, and our time limitations are all gonna be different, we all have to juggle that, you know, I know. Second, fourth Tuesday of every month, here I am. We have 2 staff members, and I'm pointing at you, and I don't even know if it's you, but we're gonna have 2 staff members that are going to. In my opinion, I may be wrong, but maybe designating more of the time frame that we'll be meeting. So that we're not imposing more on their off time type thing, and depending on how the committee members can meet, you know, it's everybody's schedule, so does that have any bearing on where either one of you, both of you stand if these meetings tend to be on a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 parameters? Is that a conflict or a burden that you can't work around? Because we do want consistency and the consensus, and we don't have to, you know, play catch up the second meeting because we've already talked about that at the first meeting, and oh yeah, maybe you weren't able to be there, you know, kind of thing. So does that have any bearing on your ability to roll your name into the ring?
I don't think so. I would not think we would need an 8-hour meeting. Is that what you were?
I hope not.
Is that what you were saying? Yeah.
We've got big problems.
Well,
No,
the
we're not-
district school board meets on the same night as you do, so that's already out, you know,
Well,
so,
good,
yeah.
yes, we don't want.
So it works.
But I mean, so if we had it during normal business hours,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
we're not
Yes,
meeting
yes.
every day of the week, but, you know, if we choose that Thursdays are good at 1 o'clock.
It would be a hit or miss thing for me, depending on my commitments with work at the time.
Okay.
But you have some flexibility.
I do have some flexibility. I telework every other week. So
Okay.
on weeks that I'm teleworking, I might have a little bit more flexibility. If I have to be down in the
So that
city,
can be,
if I have to be down in the city, I wouldn't be able to.
and carry on.
I don't have.
Okay,
I'm very flexible.
okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
I know both of you, so I think we all know each one of you. My question / concern, I just want to make sure you would be able to answer the question. Would you have any problems keeping the information to this group and not disseminating to Facebook and those other kind of things? Because this would be very confidential stuff that we are discussing, needing a kind of a consensus to bring back to the board. And I just want to ask the question, because I know you both are involved in social media and so forth, so would you have any problem keeping the information completely confidential?
Not at all. Some of the stuff that I mentioned, the work that I did with nonprofits, was privileged and confidential information, working on that stuff, so I would have no issue with that.
I can't imagine how many privileged and confidential things I deal with the school board and all the other things, the chat committee that I meet with, that's all very privileged and confidential.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So, am I hearing? Go ahead and accept. it?
Sure, would you guys like to go in the committee?
Welcome aboard.
So-
We're not meeting tomorrow, okay, so whatever.
I will also throw out that if either you or Rob feels like you're overextended, I can step in as like an alternate. If you guys are not able to, I will happily make myself available to this group if need be.
So you could be an alternate member.
Okay.
I will be the alternate selectman, so we don't have a quorum, but if there's a conflict, I will step in if needed.
Thanks,
So-
guys.
Well,
Thank you.
let's go ahead and make it official and somebody make a motion, please.
The proper motion would be to appoint and then both names
Mhm.
to the administrative policy review.
I make a motion to approve, appoint, excuse me, Bruce Shank and Carrie McHugh to the administrative policy review.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. That's unanimous. We heard it.
It wasn't I.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll have our people contact your people.
Okay, last action item we've got here is a request for extension of time to file audit.
I have been speaking with the auditor because they've had all the information since late March, early April, I believe. She did say they are running a little bit behind and I was trying to get her to nail down the date to present in July. because I will not be here for the second meeting. So I was trying to say, can you have it done by first meeting in July? And she said that she would appreciate if we could sign the paperwork for the state auditor to file for an extension this time. Her Tim, maybe her husband has had some health issues, so we're a little bit behind, but we should have it. There's no promises, but by your meetings in August.
And this gives us through September 30th.
Correct, but
We
it's,
hope not
it's
to
kind
do
of difficult not to have the end of last year, we're kind of just aiming in the dark when we're trying to find extra money, so, and I explained all that to her, not that I anticipate any large changes, but I mean, there's things that may get shifted around. So, that it would,
We do want it to happen as quickly as possible.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Soon.
So, yeah, and I rather have it looked at closely rather than find an error next year on. So,
Okay.
hence the form, and it does have to be signed by preferably Lynette.
Okay. So, any questions? Okay. Sounds like we need to do this. Who would like to make a motion to approve the request?
I'll make a motion to approve the request to extend the amount of time requested for the audit to September 30th, 2024. Is that everything you need?
Is that acceptable? Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, discussion item.
Yes.
Pages up again.
Asia has handouts.
Okay.
Asia, I've spent a lot of time working on this. The statutes which I brought are, you know, sort of detailed, but they're also not really artfully written. And so you have to do a little bit of interpretation. But as an overview, I can tell you that what we put together were three things. The thing we'll spend all our time on is this chart. Because that really, I think, is a way for the board to make whatever choice and direction us it wants to in terms of what you want to do. And there's probably not three choices. Shocking. Come on, wait, come on. No? I'm here every night. Try so hard. Rob isn't here to, but.
Yeah, sorry, Rob, I don't have a digital copy.
Yeah. So there's code of the common outdoor dining area, there's the common consumption area within an entertainment district. And there's special event permit. All around, how do you turn 6th Street into what you'd like to turn it into? Occasionally using, alcohol licenses. And so we created this little schedule that shows what the issues are, the topics down the left. And then, okay, if you're in a CODA, what's that mean? And if you're in a common outdoor consumption area, what's that mean? And for example, unlicensed participants not permitted in either a CODA or a. And we really ground through the statutes pretty carefully. As I say, they're a little bit of lack of clarity, but the more you read them, the more you can kind of figure out the answer. And we also created, if you're anxious to get going, because you expressed real anxiousness last meeting. So we created two ordinances, one for an entertainment district, so common consumption area system, and a much shorter ordinance for the to be in here, is it in here? Yeah.
Entertainment district ordinance you made is, so I'm gonna have to go find that, I did include the statement. Sorry.
Okay. But if you want to do a first reading tonight, we'd be able to do that. I can probably find my other video, I thought that it was not sent to you, it was not. Okay, that's exciting.
I'd like to see the entertainment district ordinance.
Well, the entertainment one is the long, which is,
But that's not the one we have,
Oh.
we only have that code.
seriously, the one we worked on today?
We only have a communal offer.
Is there an email that you can re-forward it to me and I'll print it?
Yeah, I have to get into office, to be able to do it.
Unless it was a separate, the Coda one I had from you, and then Winona worked on a Coda one as well that you edited, but I haven't seen the entertainment district one.
Well, they were all sent, and that was my,
Can you double check?
I can double check that.
yeah, look in your email attachments, because what were, you know, they both were done, and they were done yesterday. So they exist. They absolutely
Forward it to
exist.
me too?
While we're trying to find those,
I've looked at the
the,
difference in the state statutes and other town ordinances, but I haven't seen the one that he's got.
Yeah. And let me see if I can make it a little better by telling you, I think. The main discussion, it's a massive material, so for you to be able to make any kind of reasoned choice. My suggestion is this, you go through this chart. That will tell you what you like, don't like about these, because you're gonna have to, the chart is how you decide which way to go. It isn't the ordinance, which is, you know, just, it doesn't tell you these answers. It just doesn't. Depending upon which ordinance you want to do, and if you want to get it jump started tonight, we can do a first reading of either one, as soon as we find it. And then we've got 2 weeks before the hearing to iron out any questions, problems with that, but the real action. And the real debate and discussion, in my opinion, not trying to hide the ordinances from you, just because you're not having, but if you saw them, they would not help you near as much, you know, we spent. A couple of hours creating this chart, which is dense, but it really does. What I think you need to know to make your policy decision, I don't have an opinion which way to go. But I think it helps you, position you to make the choice. So get away from the draft ordinances, pull up the chart. Maybe up the chart, the blue chart.
But let me just throw this out there, just so you know, maybe you know this already, but we kind of had a small ad hoc committee meeting. Amanda was present, myself and Craig from BPC, Jen was present, Kasia was present, and Jess from events was present. This was a week and a half, it was a week ago Monday, yesterday. And just kind of going through, because BPC is supporting that we move forward in one of these directions. But we seem to hash out a lot of maybe the differences and, you know, trying to hone in on where we wanted to go. And I know, well, then Amanda, I'm gonna take you with me under the bus on this. I know when we brought this up at the last board meeting, we were both like, you know, putting our heels down, saying, no, we're not gonna start the ordinance yet, because we had so many questions to go. But between staff and some of the commissions, we've kind of hashed these out a little bit too, so just to get a better understanding. I don't know if any of that information was shared with you since we put it together.
Yes, and I would say that this includes that
Okay,
plus more.
okay,
And of course, we have board members that haven't been a part of
Right.
that pre-discussion. Everybody's got to end up on, in my opinion, on the same page. So it won't take forever, but I think it might help if you let us sort of skip through this a little bit, and you'll sort of see how it kind of lays out. Basic description for a coda. You have, for a coda, you've got 2 or more liquor licensees that band together, and it's a simpler, shorter deal. They ask for this designated coda area, you have to have 2 liquor licensees to dance. Compared to an entertainment district common consumption area, that allows a number of participating establishments, but you're gonna have to skip down to governing body. You're gonna have to have a promotional association with a board of directors. to run that show. And it can't be just the BPC, it's gotta be, corporation has board of directors, one member from every one of the licensed premises. For a coda, it's simple and shorter, but you get less, I suppose, but it's you guys that would run the show. In a coda, you yes, you can consume alcohol in the area, as well as you can do in the outdoor entertainment district. It says outdoor consumption is not permitted, and that's not true. Why is that still there?
Oh, I'm sorry, I think you're holding maybe the one that was in the packet.
No, I got something to hand out.
The other one, that's gonna have that on there. So can we just strike?
I just
Yeah,
was like, I had that, no.
I know that's
Think I
important.
highlighted. I'm sorry,
You
it
can
should be
strike it.
alcohol is permitted,
Yes.
sorry.
Close, the schedule for the events, CODA, you set it. Under a common consumption area, it's set by the liquor license set and approved by you, the liquor licensing authority. So either way, you set the schedule for when it can be used. For who can participate. And this is probably important, for a CODA, it's 2 liquor licensees, they have to be within 1,000 feet of the area you choose. So, you know, if it's on the street, great. For a consumption area, it's again, at least 2 property owners within the district have to be. And typically you'll have that with the liquor licensees.
Can I stop and ask a question? So the 2 property owners and the license and directors from each licensed premises all have to be on that? Because we found that we were confused by that language.
Yeah.
Is it the both or one or the other or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an artfully written statute, I'm not surprised you were. I struggle with that too. I believe both things are true, the board has to have a representative for every liquor license that's attached. And elsewhere in the statute, it says 2 property owners.
Yeah, it's
And
tricky.
I can't help it, it's.
No, it's not your fault.
So there it is. I think if there's interest, you go out and you recruit. And put it this way, if you've got a liquor licensee leasing, that license is what I would first go to would be their landlord who owns that property and say, would you sign on? So there's that. The next line is probably quite important to you. For a CODA, within 1,000 feet, these 2 liquor licenses have to be in 1,000 feet of their permanent location has to be within 1,000 feet of the CODA area. For common consumption, it's no more than, that would change that. It should be no more than, the area can be no more than 100 acres. Perimeter, you determine the perimeter in each case, really, where's this gonna be? Liquor, who's liable? Liquor license participants, you know, the liquor licensees themselves in a CODA. The promotion association and the licensees are liable in the entertainment district. So if someone's been overserved or serves to underage or any of those liquor violations, the liquor licensee, if you can figure out who actually served to that underage, but it's, you know, it's a larger area, so you've got to have, so the promotional association is on the hook as well. Some prerequisites for the CODA, each licensee's got to get a modification of premises to go out there. When you can think about CODA as sort of a big modification of premises for 2 licensees. That's how to think about a CODA, and that rockets through the rest of their requirements as well. For an entertainment district, you created a district and people asked to connect to it, but they have to be either within it or they have to touch it with their licensed premises. So if you've got a licensed premises that's nowhere near the entertainment district, you can't participate, you have to touch it physically. Let's see, no mandatory reporting, annual report to the liquor authority for an entertainment district. Insurance, we're gonna need insurance either way, but for a CODA, it's probably getting the town, if there's town right away involved, named as an additional insured on one or both of those policies for those 2. Unlicensed participants, in other words, can I show up with my own liquor, and the answer is no. Can I show up with my own six-pack? And the answer there is also no, and I know that you'd rather it be different, but we looked at that really, really carefully.
So, wait though, we had that question, or that question came up, are you shaking your head?
No,
saying,
I was-
Please, Mary, don't.
No,
bring
no,
this up."
I was shaking my head, about something, about how we'd rather it be different, I don't think we want it to be different.
I don't think anybody wanted it to be different.
It's not
I
about.
think we were just concerned about how to deal
Statute doesn't
with.
let you.
No,
Yeah.
but the question came up because of our breweries and how they sell their regular takeout.
So, yeah, when we were reading through the different ordinances, and all of us were simultaneously banging our heads against the wall because they're so well written. There was a question about, the fee, and I forget how far it was, within an off-premise licensee. That you couldn't approve, and I apologize, I can't remember which one of these it was. One of these was not permitted within a certain fee of an off-premise licensee, and that was making us think of the breweries who are licensed for off-premise sales.
Yeah.
And if they could,
I wish I can't
yeah,
answer that.
no, I know,
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
have
I'm
the-
not trying to,
I don't have the answer.
I'm not trying to make this any harder, I'm just anybody
It is a question that we.
And it was and it was from a personal experience, and if any that shall remain unnamed in another municipality that I went into. And was handed a can of their brewed beer bought from their counter, and they opened it for me, and I walked out into the Coda with it.
And truthfully, there's two levels here. There's what the statute says and what the ordinance would say, and there's what every one of us has experienced once in our life somewhere.
Totally,
You
I
know,
mean, and
it's
yeah,
not pejorative, but the point I guess I'm making is what you've experienced somewhere or what somebody else has done.
Doesn't-
May or may not be okay, you know, just. So there's that, bringing in your own alcohol, not permitted, it's the way it is. Container requirements for CODA, subject to whatever you impose, for the, interestingly, for the consumption. If you're gonna take it outside their licensed premises into the entertainment district premises, it's gotta be in a 16-ounce disposable cup with the name of who it is on there. And from an enforcement standpoint, if you're trying to figure out who got overserved, or someone obviously intoxicated walking around with, you know, Doll's Brewery on their thing, then you cite me. So there's that. Licensing and permits, state and local permits for each of the, you know, you're just modifying licenses of those two licensees. The entertainment district, you create the district, and then each individual licensee gets an attachment permit from you. So they can attach. Now, of course, they also have their liquor license too. But that's what they do. Enforcement for the CODA, it's, you know, it's anybody that's participating licensee, unless we can determine who it was. You know, and so there's that. For the consumption area, you can revoke the entertainment district itself. Or an individual licensee's right to attach to the district. Barriers, I know this has come up. Under the CODA, it's whatever the modification of premises conditions, because you get that sometimes. People say, we want to serve on the back patio. And remember, usually you say, well, show us, but there's like a fence or something, or a railing. That's kind of the arena you're in for a CODA, and you could do the same with traffic, I suppose. Entertainment district is a little more prescriptive. It says physical barriers required for motor vehicles. So you're not gonna have cars driving through an entertainment district, you just can't. And I understand that people are walking around out in the street, and as that, you can limit pedestrian access. Couple of other things. And Acacia asked about this, and we went through it. Non-liquor merchant vending. You know, if I want to sell my candles inside that area, can I? Some form of additional permit, probably an encroachment license or something, you know, we allow that now. If people wanna, you know, do temporary sidewalk sales, we allow that under some kind of zone, it would be the same. It's not that the public isn't allowed in that area. They're gonna have to go into the bar to get their drink, and the bar is gonna have to make the determination whether they're over 21, et cetera, et cetera. Private property participation. It's not permitted, as said, in private establishments other than vendors. For example, the library stage, yes, with the permission of those owners. But just because you're establishing a coda or an entertainment district doesn't mean you can add my front yard to that without me saying, okay. And in practice, we all know this, the property is largely public that you want used. In terms of code changes, we looked at this on the eligible zoning districts, and I think that was Mary's question. Our historic commercial district allows, bars and restaurants with outdoor sales on patios not in excess, of the size not in excess of the indoor premises. And that's written with the kind of classic mode in mind without thinking about this, it's old language. So we would need to change that code section that's noted to say unless in a coda, unless in an entertainment district. But from a zoning standpoint, both historic commercial and mixed use commercial, historic mixed use have that same language about bars and restaurants, and so we need to make a code confusing. I don't know if you're interested in the column on these permits, those are available. But we thought, for your comparison, you have it there. I suspect that's not where you want to spend your time, but we should take any and all questions. The ones I can't answer, Casey will, the ones she can't answer, I will, and neither one of us can answer. We'll say it's the fault of the drafters of the statute, if I ever like that.
Okay.
Did you find those?
I think maybe you sent it to my Gina, I can go print it out. And you can
Yeah.
talk.
Could you, because there's two. The one is, what, a page and a half.
Mhm.
And the entertainment district is modeled on Lakewood, and I just took Lakewood,
Mhm.
changed it around, added the gingerbread, and they're both ready to go.
Yeah,
I sense the board might, or I suppose we could wait until we see which one they want us to go to first reading on. Let's have a discussion, see.
Well, one question that popped into my head is what about we do have already a code requirement keeping alcohol out of all of our parks. And if we wanted it to be available in Stroud Park,
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
modify that.
And while we're doing, I can conceive the first reading ordinance, if you do one tonight, and say, plus which change code section 1716.042B5. This bar and restaurant one, and edit, and I'll find the code section, good catch. We would need to say, now, honestly, the only town park I think that would be within either 1,000 feet of bar and restaurant or adjacent, that you could make it somehow adjacent to a bar and restaurant would be Strasbourg, I believe.
Well, I don't know how far Bay is from City Park.
Oh, without library park.
But that's privately owned.
So we need to have a consideration there. Oh, you'd have to get their permission.
That's permission. Yeah,
But it wouldn't be, good question, but it wouldn't be a code change.
Right.
Because it's private property.
right, but Bay is
We could make it,
fairly close to City Park.
there's probably no harm in saying, in accepting parks, the real driving feature will be how close is that park to a bar that you want to use as the springboard for a code.
I don't know if Pizza Park is an official park, but it's that little
Yeah.
picnic area right across from the market, which is where Mount Buzz is.
Yeah.
So,
We worked through a lot of those scenarios in the work session that we were in, work session, whatever you wanna call it.
Whatever.
And I think that what Kasia kind of came up with was that if we would do the initial focus on Sixth Street. And again, if you're doing the coda, you'd have to have 2 licensees within that 1,000 feet.
got it.
So hypothetically, Alpine and Fave are within 1,000.
Well, I
feet
was
of each other.
gonna, I was
Yeah.
going there.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
but then by the same token. If somebody goes down by Cabin Creek or the breakfast place next door to Cooper's got a liquor license.
Right.
Then. What becomes our coda, so I think. It made sense to me, because after we worked through it, that if we define the initial code just within the historic district, that would simplify it.
Okay.
And if a licensee is really offended, they can maybe come appeal to us, but I don't know if we need to overcomplicate the code personally, that's kind of thing.
Well, I thought our last discussion on it, because I wasn't part of that, I thought the last discussion was just focused on Sixth Street for Coda for now, right?
But, well, remember, Coda. Here's the pitch for an entertainment district. Not that both of them have different, licensing authority, governance structures that our merchants may or may not want to be involved, okay? But Coda does not allow me to go from Happy Cooker's extended dining area
All the way down
a
6th
block
Street.
down Sixth Street to Sweet Easy's area, because it's pretty much right out front. There's still two separate dining areas, but expanded dining areas, okay? The entertainment district allows me to take my Dulce Brewery and my red Solo cup and wander, if we're saying the entertainment district, to Sixth Street,
Down the street.
to hit them all. It's a pub crawl kind of thing. It's, that whole area.
The Longhouse, the total area is less than 100 acres.
Yeah.
And it's long and skinny, but cool.
No.
And the bars that you want to crawl to,
Are participating.
you'll be crawling, but no.
I agree. So I won't be going.
The bars you want people to go to are each either in that area or they touch it, and of course they all do.
Right.
So. you're
But
right.
this can provide an opportunity, to me, it's an economic enhancement that we are offering. To, let's just call it the Sixth Street Entertainment District, okay, we'll come up with the catchy name later. That businesses could band together, form their special association and allow for that opportunity. That's so you can walk the whole length. Coda is just the dining area. You
No, I
just
get
get
that, but our
So
focus is on
it's-
6th Street, it's more or less the same.
There's been a misunderstanding here, because we can establish all of Sixth Street as a coda, and anyone that's part of that, you can walk down the street, the same way you can with an entertainment district.
Remembering that the bars that participate in a coda have to be within 1,000 feet of the coda, which doesn't have an upper 100-acre limit. So here's my diagram. Here's this is gonna be easier. There we go. So you have Sixth Street, right? Across the top, and you have two bars. Each of them has to be at least 1,000 feet walking distance to this coda area. And I guess what Mary's suggesting, and tell me if you agree, is if you made Sixth Street the coda area, all the bars by definition are within 1,000 feet because they touch it. They don't actually have to touch it. Entertainment district, they do, but here it's the same thing. They both touch and they're within 1,000 feet. If you configure the coda area as more or less Sixth Street and its sidewalks.
So we made Strauss Park the coda, just to be generic. And Mountain Laws and Sweet Easy wanted to do it. Would that be legal?
Do
Because
they,
they're within 1,000 feet of the coda.
How are they accessing it with their? Because coda you don't have to have, according to this chart, coda you don't have to have that marked red Solo cup.
that's
How am I acquiring a drink at Happy Cooker, and I'm taking extremes here?
Yeah.
And getting to that area, and it's a dining area, so it's the food and beverage. How am I making that trek down there within the,
How are you making the trek down where you're, if the quota is just Strauss Park is your question?
yeah,
And I get my drink, now I've got an open container of alcohol on the sidewalk. And I'm not in the quota, I've got an open beer on the sidewalk and I can't have that. So you need to design, if you wanted it to be Strauss Park, you need to decide, you would need to design your quota area to include the street. And Strauss Park and whatever streets in front of any other bars and restaurants that are not on the street, not on Sixth, right? To capture. I mean, you would need to do that.
so you're talking about modifying our code to allow, again, Happy Cooker, I'm picking on Happy Cooker, to expand their dining and drinking area.
Yes, what you do,
Wait, 3 blocks out.
well, no, here's how you do it. You'd say, okay. In the zoning code, it says you can serve outside, but only on a patio that's no bigger than your store is, your indoor is. And then we put a comma, except for service within an approved quota area, except for service within an approved entertainment district area. Right, during times when those areas are permitted, because it's not gonna be 24/7. During times, during dates and times, we'll get into dates and times in a minute, because Kate and I've looked at that. When those areas are permitted service, so that's how you do it, and that's how you'd be able to allow a drink from Happy Cooker to walk down the street to. But the street they're walking down has to be within either a quota area, so that you're not subject to open container out in the regular world, or within the entertainment district. To protect you from that, and honestly, and effectively, you're saying, especially with the code, you're saying to those liquor licensees, you're on the hook for violations of, and so you've got your patrons that are getting increasingly pretty far away from your premises, and the bars are, and I'm not saying don't do it for this reason, but I'm saying it's a public policy concern that you've got licensee here whose beer is all the way down there. And with the entertainment district, I'm not necessarily lobbying for it, but then you do have an association and a board of directors that's on the hook for, equally on the hook with the licensee for what happens down the street.
But then also too, though, like you mentioned, Mary, if you're gonna account the street, then you gotta close the street. Right, you mentioned that earlier, and we've already discussed this earlier, we're just making the street one way is tough enough.
but it's only during the time that you designated to be the entertainment district or the code.
That's correct.
True, but where I'm going with this is. This is already getting super complicated, how are you gonna get two businesses together that wanna do this and then close the street? For those ideas to try to get everything you want out of this.
And we may not be able to get those two businesses today or next week or even next year. But again, the opportunity is there that we're opening the door to do with thought, this is where we're going. And again, this is the conveyance from business promotions that we're like, it sounds like this could be an enhancement for the Sixth Street area. I mean, that's the logical place. Do we want to do that? And BPC was making a recommendation, yes, let's do it. So here we are discussing it.
True.
They may not do it. We may not get a governance board or the association to create an entertainment district, but our code allows us to grapple that up.
Sure, but I mean, was there interest from businesses to want to do that now with the current businesses that we have?
So I actually did a survey of all the businesses on the street with a couple exceptions. And, it's funny how people say different things to one person and different things to other people. But for the most part, the people that I talked to were supportive. There were a couple of detractors, and literally 2 when I spoke with them. And obviously, the differences between the entertainment district and the CODA, as far as viability goes, is gonna determine some people's support. So it's all the people I talked to with the impression of two people were either like, yeah, we're interested in seeing where it goes, or very supportive, and there were two people who were concerned about traffic and closures and liability. So it would kind of depend on which option we went with.
I mean, it does create a lot more liability for that business, correct, Amanda? And so once you realize that, but then also too, and I get where you're going with that. I mean, I love the idea of closing Sixth Street and having those businesses do that, but in the real world, will businesses really want to do that when they see
Right.
the liability for that?
At some point, Georgetown had like 27 bars and restaurants, you know? I don't know, I wasn't here for that insurance. The heck was here, 'cause I don't think any of us were here at that point, I didn't drive. But you know, you talk to, you know who, and you know, you'll hear about Flushing and Aspen Fest and all these other, you know, over the dirt events. When, before they gave a damn about liquor laws, and they were out there was an entertainment district here, okay? They didn't even have red lights on, but there was an entertainment district here, so are we gonna formalize it and legalize it? But I would hate to not include Jen, our town clerk, in this conversation, because, and I don't know if you have anything to add or concerns, but she does all the liquor licensing now, and she's been involved in some of these meetings, and so.
Thank you. I mean, and that probably happened before they had insurance. Liability.
Before the invention of lawyers, no, that's right.
First lawyer joke, what is it, 8 o'clock?
Sorry.
Usually I was thinking I was gonna get through the day. Yeah. One time.
You love you, Jerry.
The coda, to me, when I read it, I interpreted it as the coda was just expanding the restaurant, so I guess I'm just confused by that.
No, actually, Jen's right, you know, the coda, the way it's written. Is for the coda, you modify the premises. Of the individual licensees to include that area. Right? So.
But the area is the whole
Is the-
area that we designate.
Yeah, so you now have a giant licensed premises for Happy Cooker. Right, because you've got to not only,
I thought it couldn't be bigger than what they had inside.
we went over that, you can't unless we change, we would need to change the code.
Okay.
Right, to say, can't be, you know, in the zoning code, can't be bigger than your inside premises unless. It's a part of a coda or an entertainment district.
Can we do both? Can we have an ED and coda?
Yeah, you could have both on the books.
For a first reading, so we can at least go to.
Yeah.
Look at.
And
Yeah, you need to find them both.
I guess I did have one thought, and because in the state statutes, it says it can be done by resolution or ordinance.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking, why not do it by resolution,
Yeah, that's-
figure out the glitches and then do the ordinance? That was just my thought. She
Yeah.
asked.
I don't agree, because we're gonna need to be able to enforce violations. We're gonna need it in the code, not least because you're gonna need to change the zoning requirements and the business about, you know, alcohol in parks. And I think it's the entertainment district where you can create the district by resolution, but in order to have enforceable requirements, you need an
That is-
ordinance to support that.
That makes sense.
And that's classic legislative drafting ordinance resolution.
I guess my thought was just to get it going, because I know that they wanna do it this summer, you know, and then do the ordinance. I understand what you're saying about the
Yeah.
first. That was just.
Yeah. You know, they can get it going pretty quickly if you do first reading tonight and second reading 2 weeks from now and you post it up. As Dr. Holmes would say, post it up. Then it's immediately effective. But then, let's remember, you gotta start taking applications for modification premises and process those applications for creation, for attachment to an entertainment district. The entertainment district ordinance itself would have to have a map, and I think each one of these ordinances, we get by on first reading without a map, but we need to add one.
That's true.
We're killing time anyway for Casey to print that out, so that's good.
Yeah. If somebody does a modification process. And then. I'm trying to think how to phrase this, they have to modify the premises every time, maybe that's a simpler way to put it.
Oh, I see. No, I don't think so. I think that you could, I mean, that's a question I never thought of. I'd have to look at the, no, it's fine, I have to look at the code. But I think we could. I think it's silent on that, and so we, on the modification of premises. Approval, you can say this, I'm making this up as I go on. The premise hereby modified to include the 6th Coda district as enacted by ordinance Yak on section whatever. For such times as the licensing authority permits the Coda or the entertainment district to be in use. And I think if you did that once, you'd be good. But that would mean when it wasn't in use, their premises is not modified.
Right?
Right, I think that's how I do it. Like that past most.
So I was just thinking if it was like one licensee was really enthusiastic and they got letting up with somebody else one time.
Yeah,
And then they were like, well, I don't like this, like what have you.
I think you could draft around that in the way I described. That way, buddy number 2. The only concern would be, okay, now we want to use the code 2 weeks from now. And only one licensee wants to play ball. And the statute says it's gotta be 2. Because otherwise, when you think about it, you've got a giant premises for one bar and that's wrong.
Or what if we kick somebody out?
Yeah, someone else will have to, I think a floor for either one has gotta be 2 bars, because otherwise what you're doing is you're creating a really large service area for one
Or one
bar.
very lucky bar.
And it defeats, what you want is, as Mary says, you want the pub crawl. Why, to be happy?
So are you saying that we have to have a code at hand and entertainment district?
No, she was asking if we could, and I said yes. You can pick either one, you can have both of them on the books.
I think if they're there, it gives a business owners, at least 2, to go either way, or to take, this way, one of Jerry's drawers. So,
Yeah.
I don't see everybody jumping up to do this tomorrow or next month. We may never see it.
Denver we were looking at an article earlier. Denver has not had a single person.
However, Denver has a lot of different events and they look the other way. We also know that from our research that the way other municipalities have it set up
Good success.
are, but how they enforce it is not our bag. We're controlling Georgetown. And, however these other towns do it or don't do it right is not our concern. But we're giving the opportunity if they want it.
Yeah.
Rick?
And I was gonna just reiterate, because what if this takes longer than what we anticipate, right? And the question would be for Jerry, we've always done special event permits. We could still do that if we wanted to. That wouldn't stop us from, like, if we're saying, well, we wanna do this, we can't get the legislation passed fast enough, we still have a backup.
Oh, yeah.
We can always, I know it's individual event, however, we still have that in our pack.
If beer pong is part of the Olympics in July here, you could have a special event.
I'm gonna go help Keisha, just in case she's having trouble finding it,
Okay.
because I want at least 10 minutes.
Can we maybe, Rick, do you wanna maybe do your, I'm sorry, like, maybe do your report, because I set a Zoom meeting until 8:30.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Got 20 minutes.
I'm excited about it.
Hold on.
So,
Okay.
just a couple things, it's a reminder for the board, we have water restrictions in place, and they've been in place since resolution 18/2012. And so we did put the resolution in your packet so that you would know, that's just a reminder, we're gonna post it online so that our residents also understand we have restrictions in place. I printed off an updated admin reports. After the net, I had a meeting, I did not realize that I had a lot of misspellings and incorrections. I know. It's never happened before. But the net, we had the net to catch my mistakes. But I printed one off and, I'm not gonna go through that. However, I just wanna remind the board. This week is when ESI is supposed to be doing their resurfacing. They have already done, thank you. They have done the call out with 811s from Excel to locate all the utilities. Excel approved it, gave it permission to proceed, and then withdrew that. So they did not give a reason why. And we are scrambling to try to get in touch with Excel, like, we had the schedule for the paying to be this week. We wanted it to be before the 4th, which is what, next weekend? We were told that Excel did respond back and saying, we are looking into this. I don't even know if they know why they withdrew this, but they withdrew it. And so we are talking about a backup plan now, of allowing ESI to continue to do what they can with Excel's permission. So we're not gonna do something over Excel, but it is changing our scheduling. And so it's creating some issues. I just wanted you to be aware of it, especially you, John, because you're right there. And I mean, some of us who go that way, we may have to go the other way on the backside, 22nd Street up Argentine. So
they had already sent out their locators and everything,
yes.
right? So I talked to one of them.
Yes.
Signs are up.
Yeah, signs are out, they have everything, they've already put the little PVC pipes in there to locate exactly the distance of where the utilities are. All that's done, it's just now getting Excel to sign off and saying, we're good, and they withdrew that. So I know it is very frustrating for us too, as we've been working on this for a while, and but they contacted Scooter today and said no. So that's that. I will be meeting with Excel soon. On a separate situation about the watershed protection permit, they want to discuss the number 2 in preparations before they have a big meeting. I'm still waiting on for us to schedule the times and the dates for that. But that one will be consisted of the bypass to go around the forebay, so that as they go in there and start doing all this testing in the, when they draw the water down, then they're planning to take a track hoe in there and do some really deep testing. But can you imagine the stirring up of sediment that's gonna create? It's gonna be awful. And even when they did their trash track removal and weir box installation, that was a nightmare in our water treatment plants. And they recognize that, and we're like, we're not gonna do that again, and we're gonna set fines in there next time that if they exceed the numbers that we anticipated, it was terrible. And they understand that, so we're gonna try to create another preliminary system before we have a big meeting. This is for you, this information. Andy, Marsh, and John Kane want to meet with us on Friday. See on your schedule if you can meet for lunch.
Oh, I got the invite from Amy.
Okay.
This is helping
Amy
us.
Saxon,
Yeah.
yes, it's about multi-jurisdictional housing first, okay.
Got it.
They want to meet with us on Friday to prepare this board of what kind of IGA that they just passed in Idaho Springs, and they want to talk to us about what we anticipate for ours. So, those are the 2 big things that I want to share with the board outside of my report. Does anyone send me questions or comments about what I have here?
The road work that's at not where ESI is repaving, right down here on Main Street, what do you?
Ninth and Rose?
Yeah, it's close off at 11th and Main, or, yeah, 11th and Main.
Looks like a valve or something.
Is that just?
They're working on that. They
Right.
were supposed to do that after the 4th of July, but they bumped it up, and they're supposed to have it finished before the 4th of July.
And there was some surveying going on down on Clear Creek Drive by us yesterday or today. What's that? Is that anything with
Excel or anything?
or Bighorn across the way? Are they surveying and they're trying to come up with some?
Now on Clear Creek Drive. No, I'm not aware of it. I have it spray painted out.
Yeah,
Flat painted out. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Bighorn Crossing, what's it called, the flats?
Lakeview Flats.
Lakeview Flats, their building permit was issued. So that's now they're ready to go to start. I met with Kurt recently to discuss what his phase 2 would be, which is the undeveloped property. And so, you're gonna hear about that soon. So he's got ideas, but nothing's final. And I even shy to even give you ideas because it could change tomorrow. So, but, he does have an idea and he's working with it and in fact, Nicole and you are gonna be talking about some of these things.
Let's stay in suspense.
So that's what I have.
Okay.
And we're engaged on,
Yep, we sure can.
Acacia, bless her heart, found both of the one ordinance was actually in the packet. So it's the one that says communal outdoor dining. It's 2 pages and it enacts a new chapter 5.17.5. And I invented that number because the other one, the entertainment district one, enacts a new chapter 5.17. And then you get, I could have found other numbers, but then these would be in the wrong place in the code, and so that's what we did. So the short ordinance that's in the packet is, as you see, it now kind of describes. We've described that, and so now when you see it, it's not surprising. 2 or more liquor licensees have to approve. The permit gets filed with the town clerk, goes to the state, they have to say yes. Board of Selectmen can approve the quota, you have to conduct a public hearing. And then there's a procedure for application and enforcement. And it doesn't apply to a special event permit, it says, and that's it. If you went this route, we would also have to do the change to the code section that Keisha put in here on the land use code, which is 1716.042. And the no alcohol in parks, which we can find in a minute. So that's CODA. The entertainment district ordinance is pretty lengthy, and I won't I won't go through it with you if you want to do it on first reading, but it does. It's modeled largely on the Lakewood ordinance. And I read it all and then I changed things that I thought needed to, at least from a minimal standpoint, get changed. But because you kind of have a 2-step process, you set up the entertainment district, then people apply. And I think you can do that by resolution. I think Jen's right, you do that by resolution. But then people apply to attach their license to that district. And they have to be either within the district or touching it. Their licensed premises. And so, but you'll see all the stuff under the entertainment district, especially for enforcement, that we need to have in the code. So, there it is.
Jared, can I make a recommended change to your entertainment district?
Yeah.
So I also read the Lakewood one pretty carefully before, and we talked about whether or not the zoning for residential was permitted at the state level, and we think that it is, it's just local level, but it's not. So we could strike 5/1730A2, which the Lakewood one doesn't allow for an entertainment district to be in any single family dwelling zone area.
To the top of page 3.
Yeah, that's what we could put it, certainly. We use that subsection to mess around with the zoning change we make. Right,
Well, this one prohibits us
Yeah.
from creating an entertainment district in a mixed use area, and we don't want that, right?
no, we don't, we don't, but it also says any area zone for single families.
Which
Historic mixed use doesn't allow single family, or does it?
it does.
Okay, but nevertheless, we need to do more than just change this.
Right, but we do want to get rid of this section.
Yes, we do, but, I guess my point is, while we're getting rid of it, let's use that spot. To say, or we can have a separate section that says code section 1716. You know,
51703.
yeah, is changed to read, you know. And well, we don't have to write this minute unless you're ready to. If you're ready to do a motion, what I'll do is the proper motion be adopt ordinance number or whatever. And the title with the following changes 1 through 3.
I wanna go out of the room and make that motion. Because I know we're gonna have more discussions on this, we have an EPC meeting next week. Even if we're not ready for second reading 2 weeks from now, let's roll. You want to
So
go?
ordinance number 9.
Or some, okay, give me a chance just to get my head on straight in terms of
Okay,
how that motion's gonna read. So that's one.
so that's.
We got 2 ordinances here, which one?
Entertainment district is number 9. I
Okay.
thought we already did,
And I'm gonna
the
do that.
code one was 5. Did we already start it?
We did,
Yeah, I think it's number 5.
Okay.
We did a first reading on it?
no, we
Don't we have
discussed
numbered
it,
it?
we
Tabled it on
Oh,
first reading.
oh, we did, okay, we numbered it, all right, okay. Let me just get my head on straight in terms of what we're gonna do.
Okay, I'll hold my breath.
Yeah. Any other discussion? 16.042. 5.
You guys are troopers.
This just shows how boring it is on a Tuesday night in Georgetown.
And they're from Texas and they're coming back. It's amazing. It is interesting though. We're enjoying this.
I don't see that, yeah.
Mercy or
Where's the no alcohol bars? Where's that? Do you know?
Not right on the
The park, I cannot find it, it's not under parks or the alcohol section, and Jen just says that it's in a weird spot, but.
Well, I only had 10 minutes to look for it. I got it introduced.
Health and
And we
safety.
were leaving, so.
Health and safety.
Time to look it up.
Okay.
I'm gonna go make sure that the ordinance.
Can we pull up like old minutes? No, I don't do that.
So just don't do-
Yeah, we won't go. Okay.
I can find this revenue. Business license. Liquor code. Distance from schools.
I
agree.
I did a.
51604.
On multiple permits. But I
Years
couldn't find it.
I think I guess. Let's take a look at 940-050. See what that might be. Or I can generically describe it and then we'll find it. 940. Blackers.
Isn't it anything when Rob's not here?
Yeah.
I mean, he's so quiet.
Does it make faces that can't make faces?
So used to that.
Thank you.
Your presence is so necessary that I've been counting in here.
I'm thinking of the one that says no open container. In any public place within the town,
Could be.
that's probably, it
And
doesn't say
probably
park, but
is.
it's probably that.
Well, that
940.
includes the lake, that includes,
Oh,
yeah.
well, a couple
No, I
places.
think it's different ones for the parks. We have a
Yeah.
specific one that addresses the parks.
You sure
You
about that?
can't walk down the street with an open container. That's
Public
separate from,
places.
but that's up, there's, I mean,
It was a big thing for the beer garden last year,
yeah.
like in City Park, and I can't remember what code.
I can look it up tomorrow when I have more time.
Yeah.
Give us a generic one.
Yeah, I'll just do the generic. So. I'm guessing that a proper motion would be to. Approve ordinance number was at 9. So 2024 on first reading with following additional changes, delete. Current section 5.17.030 A2. Add to the ordinance an additional section of ordinance, section 2, to read the code section 17.16.042B5 is amended to permit the alcohol service of a licensed premise outside of its designated premises if within a common outdoor dining area or a common consumption area previously approved by the town board, and only during such dates and times as either one of those areas is in effect. And a new section 4 of the ordinance to amend the code section prohibiting open containers in public parks to be similarly amended with the exception that such open things are allowed only when a coda or entertainment district is in force.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 9, series 2024. An ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code to adopt a new chapter 5.17 concerning entertainment districts with the amendment as discussed. All in favor, say aye. Oh, this is on first reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Rob, are you there?
I'm cutting these out.
Off the bear.
Stepped away,
Okay,
so,
all right, and
okay.
did you want to do the coda as well, correct? The
Yes.
proper motion for that would be to approve ordinance number 5 series 2024 with the same additional sections, but not the correction, but the same additional changes as were approved for the first reading on ordinance number 9.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 5, series 2024, an ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code to adopt a new chapter 5.17.5 concerning communal outdoor dining areas with the changes discussed.
Or, right, with changes, that's good, that's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Both of those motions pass. Thank you. Wahoo. Did you have anything more, Asia, for assistant administrator's report?
Very fast, you've got like 30 seconds. It was good.
The board approved the first reading of the common outdoor dining area this evening, so that was exciting, for me, and the Bighorn permits were approved, and the HB 2011-10 action plan resolution was approved, and that's the important stuff.
Anything revelational from your conference last week?
I went to some really cool things. Yeah, let's see. I thought there was a great one, the chief of police of the Riverfields city county manager, and like the relationship between them, and just like some of the policies I thought were really informative. I went to a liquor licensing one that was pretty standard. I don't know if I learned anything really from that one. I worked on all the stuff with Jerry. It was great to hang out with Jerry. And some good networking. The police chief one was my favorite for sure. Yeah.
I want to thank Keisha for the work on this other stuff. I know I was the presenter, but she was the person who created the chart that we then went back and forth on. And there's a lot of material in that page and a half.
That helped a lot.
Yeah, we thought the only way to fight our way through all of these considerations, policy wise, is to make it visual. So she did that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we've got a lot more to do on it, so let me know if you have.
Yes, don't stop now.
Only beginning. Only beginning. All right, I'm gonna be going to executive session with the town administrator and appropriate staff. Under CRS 24-6-402. 4F for a personal matter, consideration of increase in acting town marshal compensation. Accordingly, to reconvene the open meeting at the conclusion of the executive session for the purpose of taking any action deemed necessary.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, welcome back.
Okay, very good.
Do you have a website?